the Earth is a sphere. A sphere is something that looks like this. Then we have a pole here, which is called the North Pole, and another pole here, which is called the South Pole. Now, the latitudes run, I told you, from west to east, or from east to west. So we have the main one there, the main line of latitude, and this main line of latitude is usually at 0 degrees, and it is called the equator. And it actually passes through our country, dividing our country into two. It passes in towns like Maseno, like Timboroa, and many other places, Nyahururu. The equator passes there. It's an imaginary line. So it's not a line you're going to see drawn. It's an imaginary line. It's drawn maybe in maps. So that is the equator at 0 degrees. Then we have other lines of latitude, the main ones, and I'm going to mention them to you, the other main lines of latitude. So that way, this one is a tropic. This one is called, it's at 23 and a half degrees, and it is called Tropic of Cancer. Tropic of Cancer. Then we have this other line. It's also a main line of latitude. It's at 66 and a half degrees, and it is called the Arctic Circle. So 0 degrees. Oh, sorry, I've forgotten to include a very important information, which is north. All these are to the north. The equator divides the world into two. So the northern side and the southern side. And these sides spheres. So we can call this the northern hemisphere. And this side can southern hemisphere. So those are the major lines of latitude to the north. Then to the south, they are named almost the same. This one here at 23 and a half degrees south is called the Tropic of Capricorn. Tropic of Capricorn. These are tropics. I know you have ever heard of the word tropics and the word equator, and when we shall be doing climate, which is actually the next substrand after this, we'll learn how these tropics and the equator affects climate. Then we have 66 and a half degrees south, which is the Antarctic Circle. And those are the major lines of latitude. So we use these latitudes to actually tell where a country or a place is located in the map and in the world. So the latitudes of Eastern Africa. Eastern Africa lies between latitude. Now, Eastern Africa, let me write here. Eastern Africa lies between latitudes 22 degrees north and 12 degrees south. Eastern Africa lies between latitudes 22 degrees north and 12 degrees south. What does this tell you? It tells you that Eastern Africa lies along the equator and not on the tropics. You see, to the north, it is actually near the Tropic of Cancer, but it doesn't get to the Tropic of Cancer. And to the south, it doesn't get to the Tropic of Capricorn. And I'm going to tell you how that influences the climate of Eastern Africa. The nearer you are to the equator, the warmer it becomes. And that is why our country is a warm country, because we are near the equator, which influences our climate. So we enjoy the equatorial climate in Eastern Africa. Those are the latitudes. Now, next, I'm going to tell you about the longitudes of Eastern Africa. These are latitudes. Now, longitudes. So, this is still the northern hemisphere. Okay, I'm gonna have to wrap this. So, I draw another sphere. Still North Pole and South Pole. Now, longitudes are imaginary lines. Longitudes, we can use these statements. And don't call them longitudes, it's longitudes. These are imaginary lines that run from north to south. So longitudes, these are imaginary lines that run from north to south. So unlike the latitudes, which run from west to east, the longitudes run from north to south. And we have the main line of longitude, which is at the center there. And that main line of longitude is called the Greenwich, Green Meridian. The Greenwich Meridian. Actually, another name for longitudes is meridians. Longitudes can also be called meridians. And dear students, why then is it called Greenwich? You could be asking yourself, it's called Greenwich because it passes in London, which is called Greenwich Town. And that is where it gets the name. In Africa, the prime meridian passes through Accra in Ghana, because Kenya is to the eastern side of the Greenwich, or another name for Greenwich is prime meridian. So that is a major line of longitude right there. There are, of course, other lines of longitudes, which I'm not going to go into detail to, just like the latitudes. So this one is the Greenwich is at 0 degrees, and it runs from north to south. What are then the differences between latitudes